This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granick-Allen. Fluoride has been added to drinking water in many communities around the world for decades with the goal of improving dental health. However, the practice has sparked ongoing debate and concern. While supporters point to its benefits in reducing tooth decay, critics argue that excessive exposure may lead to potential health risks ranging from dental fluorosis to potential links to developmental and neurological issues. Now we are seeing many communities revisit fluoridation and, in some cases, reverse course and remove it from the drinking water supply. So, should communities add it universally to drinking water? Or should those that want it add it themselves? What does the science say? Well, today we're going to be delving into these concerns and examining the science behind fluoride in drinking water. And joining us to discuss this issue is Dr. Robert Dickson, a doctor in Calgary, Alberta, who is the founder of Safe Water Calgary and the chair of Fluoride Free Canada. Dr. Dickson, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure, Tanya. Thanks for bringing up this topic. It's so topical right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard Robert F. Kennedy Jr., south of the border, talking about this issue. We know that various municipalities in Canada have revisited this issue in recent years. But it all comes down to, I think, one very specific question, which is fluoride safe?
Yeah, it comes down to actually more than that. It's not safe, it's not effective, and it's not ethical.
Okay, let's talk about all three of them. Okay, so why isn't fluoride safe? We've been told it has been, that it's going to, prevent tooth decay, and there's been research indicating that there has been positive benefit, met at least dentally, for those who ingest fluoride. What does the science say?
Well, for 75 years, Tanya, we've been told safe and effective. And if you repeat a mantra often enough, people will soon come to believe it. And so, safe and effective over 75 years is not so, because we've had information for at least that long how unsafe fluoride is, how neurotoxic, brain toxic it can be, how it affects women's thyroids when you're low on iodine, for instance, which is about 20% of Canadian females,
Oh,
how
wow.
it affects kidneys adversely. Doctors used to use fluoride to make bones thicker because they thought they'd be stronger. Actually, they became more brittle and more easier to break. So we stopped doing that about 60 or 70 years ago. So there's so many reasons why fluoride is unsafe. We've had that data for years. This book, The Case Against Fluoride, written by one of my mentors from the U of C Medical School, Dr. James Beck, is the best book that's ever been written on fluoridation. That was 2010. And we had a ton of science back then showing how safe and effective, but the powers that be are not wanting to listen to that.
Okay, so let's stem back for a moment. Where did the concept of fluoridating water come from? Like, we hear Canadians are vitamin D deficient, but yet the government doesn't put vitamin D into the water supply. Who came up with this idea?
Just as a segue there, Patty Heisler, the Minister of Health in 2020, said in front of the House of Commons that vitamin D was fake news. Vitamin D
Oh,
is one of the most potent vitamins on the planet. It could virtually save our planet from a lot of these things that are going on now. Vitamin D3 and K2, I recommend to thousands and thousands of patients. It is excellent. It was called fake news in Parliament by Minister of
okay.
Health.
Good to
So
know.
they've been on fluoride too. So fluoride comes from this pre-World War II, actually, from the aluminum industry and from some dentists that found in Colorado and Texas that kids' teeth were really brown. And why were they really brown? Well, they checked into it and they didn't have any cavities. Well, the brown happened to be overdose of fluoride. It's fluorosis, basically. So it made the teeth a little bit more impervious to cavities, and it took off from there. It was also needed, and this might sound like a conspiracy theory, but I'm not into conspiracies. I'm into, well, more into follow the money facts. And fluorine was needed in World War II. The movie Oppenheimer, if you
Hmm.
saw that classic a couple of years ago, it was a great movie. And they needed tons of fluorine gas to make the atom bomb. So somehow the aluminum industry, then the fertilizer industry, and then the military had to whitewash fluoride. So they
Wow.
hired Albert Bernays. Does that name ring a bell? Bernays?
Well, it did once I was doing the research for the show.
Good for you. Yeah. Anyway, he's the grandnephew of Sigmund Freud, and he wrote the title of the book called Propaganda in 1929.
Right.
Such a successful book, he was hired by the cigarette companies to whitewash cigarette smoking for pregnant women. So doctors would sit there in their white coats smoking their Camels and say, Yeah, this is really good for pregnancy. It calms you down. It's going to make your pregnancy much smoother and much better. That was Bernays' work. And so then he was hired in the 40s to whitewash fluoride,
Okay, I'm
essentially.
going to pause you there. We got to go to commercial. We'll be right back.